an unnatural way. Detective Alex Turner has always dreamed of joining the prestigious city police force. Having just graduated from the academy, Alex was assigned to the Unsolved Cases Division, a unit responsible for solving the unsolved mysteries that have haunted the department for years. Alex had no idea that their dreams of becoming heroes would soon turn into a frosty nightmare. The office of the Unsolved Cases Department was a dimly lit room with rows of filing cabinets, each filled with unsolved mysteries from the past. Alex's new partner, Detective Emily Sullivan, was an experienced investigator, known for his determination and unconventional methods. When they started sorting through the old case files, a specific file caught their attention: damn case files. Fascinated by curiosity, Alex opened the file and discovered a collection of strange cases that seemed to thwart logic. Each file was labeled with mysterious symbols and contained terrible details, from which they ran on the back of goosebumps. It soon became clear that these cases were not only unresolved, but also shrouded in an atmosphere of ill will. The first case, titled The Ghost of Elm Street, was about a series of unexplained deaths that struck the suburban neighborhood decades ago. Residents reported seeing ghostly figures hiding in their houses, accompanied by supernatural whispers and activity similar to that of poltergeist. The investigators were undermined at the time and the case was not solved. Driven by a mixture of curiosity and the desire to make a name for themselves, Alex and Emily decided to dig deeper into the file of the cursed case. Soon they discovered a hidden connection between the victims, a mysterious symbol that appeared at every crime scene. It was a symbol linked to a long-forgotten cult that would have possessed dark powers. As they went deeper into the investigation, Alex and Emily themselves began to face strange incidents. They heard whispers in the corridors of the police station when there was no one nearby. The temperature suddenly dropped and the air became heavy with the presence of something otherworldly. It seemed that within the walls of the station dwelt the souls of the victims, for whom they sought justice. One fateful night, while they were covering the files, a violent thunderstorm broke out outside, casting terrible shadows throughout the office. Suddenly, the light flickered and went out, leaving the room plunged into darkness. When Alex and Emily realized that they were not alone, they panicked. Whispering voices filled the room, growing louder and more sinister every moment. The shadows seemed to live their own lives, moving in an unnatural way. Desperate to escape, Alex and Emily, stumbling, made their way to the door, but found her locked outside. Locked in an office, they felt a sinister presence thicken around them. The air fills with a disgusting stench, and the whisper turns into an icy laugh. The cursed documents of the case, once mere notes on the past, seemed to come alive before their eyes, their pages turning furiously, as if to attract them to death. Having no other choice, Alex and Emily got together with the spirit and began to read the files aloud, hoping to find out the truth and pacify the vindictive spirits around them. As they read each case, the ghosts became more and more agitated, their presence intensifying. It turned into a race against time to solve the mysteries and lift the curse that bound them. The last file in the Damned Affairs collection contained a key, a ritual that could expel the spirits and put an end to their torments. With trembling hands, Alex and Emily followed the instructions, desperately trying to get out of the vice of the paranormal world that trapped them. When they finished the ritual, a dazzling light filled the room, dispelling the darkness and driving away the evil forces. When the light has gone out, Alex and Emily have discovered that they are in a now empty office, and the cursed case files are brought back to their lifeless state. This ordeal has changed them, leaving an indelible mark on their souls. They saw darkness inaccessible to understanding, an evil that had been sleeping for a long time. But they came out of there with a newfound determination to bring justice to the victims and protect their city from the sinister forces that threatened it. Since that day, the damned files have remained locked up, hidden from prying eyes. Detective Alex Turner and Detective Emily Sullivan have become defenders of secrets, guardians of ghost stories that should never have seen the light. The years passed and the two detectives heard whispers from time to time in the depths of the plot, an icy reminder of the darkness they were facing. But they stood firm, knowing that one day they had conquered evil and that they would do it again if they had to. Thus, the cursed files remained buried, their stories limited to the echoes of the past, waiting for the day when
Detective Sarah Miller has always prided herself on her ability to remain calm in the face of danger. But the events that took place on that fateful night would have put his courage and sanity to the ultimate test. It all started with a distress call from Officer David Thompson, a respected member of the force, who reported a suspicious vehicle and demanded immediate assistance. Sarah's heart was pounding wildly as she started the engine of her patrol car, driving through the deserted streets of the city in the direction of the designated place. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a strange glow on abandoned buildings and empty alleys. The air was thick with anticipation, as if the darkness itself was holding its breath. As Sarah approached the area, she expected to see flashing lights and the familiar sight of Agent Thompson's patrol car. However, there was nothing but an anxious silence that engulfed him. No sign of the vehicle. No sign of his fellow officer. Confused but determined, Sarah got out of the car and carefully surveyed her surroundings. That's when she heard it, the distant sound of screeching tires and the roar of a revived engine. Her instinct kicked in and she followed the noise, racing through the dimly lit streets. Every turn she made seemed to take her deeper into a maze of empty roads devoid of any signs of life. The sirens were getting louder and louder, echoing through the silence, and Sarah's heart was pounding in her chest. She felt like a mouse being stroked by an invisible predator. Suddenly Sarah saw it, a flickering light in the distance. It was unmistakable headlights, and she realized it was coming from Agent Thompson's patrol car. Relief gripped him, but it quickly turned to horror when the car seemed to disappear like a ghost from another realm. Sarah asked for help on the radio, desperately describing what she had witnessed, but her words were met with static. The connection was distorted, as if some invisible force was interfering with its transmission. Fear penetrated her spine, threatening to paralyze her, but she kept walking, determined to find Officer Thompson and solve the mystery. With each new step toward the ghost patrol car, the air grew colder, and Sarah could see his breath materialize in front of her. She could sense a malicious presence lurking just outside her line of sight. Shadows danced on the periphery of her vision, and she knew she was being watched. As she approached the car, the door opened, revealing an empty driver's seat. The engine was idling, but Agent Thompson was nowhere to be seen. Sarah hesitated for a moment, her hand hovering over the door handle before gathering the courage to get up. As soon as she sat down, the door closed behind her, deciding her fate. The car lurched forward, dragging her into a nightmare she could never have imagined. The streets twisted and twisted, turning into a twisting maze of darkness. The headlights illuminated grotesque characters who came in and out of sight, their eyes glowing with malice. Sarah's heart was pounding as she desperately tried to regain control of the car, but she seemed to have her own will. The radio came to life, emitting a haunting melody that sent shivers down her spine. She recognized it as a distorted version of a lullaby she had heard as a child, but her innocence had turned into something sinister and sinister. A premonition. Time lost all meaning when Sarah was trapped in an endless loop of desolation and fear. The machine became his prison, a guide to a realm where the laws of reality no longer applied. Faces appeared in the rearview mirror, their features distorted in agony and despair. They whispered indistinguishable words. Their voices haunt her with every waking moment. The days turned into nights, and Sarah became haggard and with empty eyes. Sleep gave him no respite, because nightmares consumed his mind, mixing with the horrors of waking hours. She struggled to hold on to her mind, but the line between reality and nightmare was becoming increasingly blurred. Then, one fateful night, as a ghostly patrol car sped through the deserted streets, Sarah saw a familiar face in the distance. It was Officer Thompson, his ethereal, distorted form. He beckoned to her, his voice carried on the wind, hurrying her to escape from the clutches of the ghost machine. Using every ounce of strength she had left, Sarah struggled with the grip on the car. With a burst of determination, she tore out the steering wheel, sending the fairing of the car into a lamppost. The impact shook her body, and she was thrown through the broken windshield. Panting, Sarah crawled away from the wreckage, the sounds of sirens and approaching footsteps filling her ears. Finally, a backup copy appeared. Looking back at the twisted and mangled pile of metal that had once been a ghost patrol car, she knew she had escaped a fate worse than death. After the incident, Sarah spoke about her heartbreaking experience, but her story was met with skepticism and disbelief. The authorities dismissed it as a hallucination, a figment of his imagination. But Sarah knew the truth. She stared into the face of genuine horror, and it changed her forever. To this day, she bears the scars of that night, both visible and invisible. Memories of the ghostly patrol car and the evil forces controlling it haunt his dreams, a constant reminder of the thin veil separating our world from the realms of darkness.
The rain was beating heavily on the windows of the small shabby police station, creating a frightening atmosphere in its dimly lit rooms. Officer Jake Mitchell was sitting at his desk, his eyes tired, staring at the flickering fluorescent lamp above him. It was another quiet night shift in the sleepy town of Crestwood, where there was little crime and less excitement. But little did Jake know that tonight would be the beginning of a nightmare that he could never have imagined. The haunted resort has earned its reputation over the years. The officers of the night shift whispered strange incidents that seemed to haunt the old building. Stories of flickering lights, inexplicable cold spots and alarming sounds permeated the resort. Most dismissed them as nothing more than urban legends, but the concern remained. As the clock struck midnight, Jake's radio came alive with a bang, breaking the silence of the station. "Officer Mitchell, please answer," a distorted voice from the loudspeaker sounds. Jake reached for the radio, his heart pounding with a mixture of curiosity and awe. "It's Officer Mitchell, go on." The voice on the other end of the line belonged to Officer Roberts, a veteran police officer known for his calm demeanor. But tonight there was a hint of fear in her voice. "Jake, I'm in pursuit of a suspicious car near Old Mill Road. I'm asking for reinforcements." "This time it's different," Robert said, and his words were emphasized by perseverance. Without hesitation, Jake grabbed his keys and rushed to the patrol car. The rain was beating the windshield as he rushed through the empty streets, and every turn brought him closer to the sinister Old Mill Road. The radio jammed again, and Robert's voice shook with distrust. He's missing, Jake. The car just disappeared before my eyes." Confusion and anxiety swept over Jake as he pressed the accelerator harder. How can we explain the disappearance of the car in the air? When he arrived on Old Mill Road, he saw Officer Roberts standing next to his abandoned patrol car, soaked in the rain, with a mixture of fear and confusion in his eyes. "What happened?" Jake asked, and his voice was full of concern. Roberts struggled to find the right words, his gaze riveted on the empty road ahead. I don't know that. I had just run after this car, and the next moment it's like she's dissolving in the dark. I've never seen anything like it." As they stood there, shrouded in the rain, the silence was broken by a frightening whisper that seemed to be transmitted to them with the wind. The voice was barely audible, but from his obsessive words, they got goosebumps down their backs. "Leave this place until it swallows you up too." The atmosphere of fear enveloped the officers, and they shared the silent understanding that they were not dealing with something ordinary. Determined to find the truth, they dared to return to the haunted station, hoping to find answers within its walls. The moment they set foot inside, they were enveloped by an icy draft that made their backs tremble. Flickering lights cast frightening shadows in the empty corridors, and a distant whisper echoed in the air. With flashlights in their hands, they carefully explored the station, walking on the trail of the inexplicable. In the basement, they came across an abandoned archive room filled with dusty folders and yellowed documents. Rummaging through this mess, they discovered a number of business files from which they got cold feet. The cases were labeled with occult symbols and gruesome details, alluding to the dark side of Crestwood's story. By gathering information, they have revealed the story of the corruption and wickedness that have haunted the city for decades. The haunted station is not only inhabited paranormal entities, but ghosts from a criminal past who refuse to rest. As they plunged deeper and deeper into the sinister web of secrets, they found themselves haunted by the vengeful ghosts of the criminals who met their disappearance within the walls of the station. The spirits were becoming more and more aggressive, their ghostly presence taking physical form, attacking the officers with supernatural force. At each meeting, the officers understood that the haunted station was a link, a gateway to a kingdom where the living and the dead met. They were determined to close these doors to put an end to the darkness that tormented their city. Armed with ancient rituals and desperate bravery, they fought the spirits in the final battle. The battle was fierce, the air was filled with otherworldly energy. Finally, they managed to seal the doors by locking the vengeful spirits within the walls of the haunted station once and for all. As the sun rose over Crestwood, the rain stopped and the town woke up to a new day. The ghost-inhabited station stood in silence, its dark secrets buried deep inside. Officer Jake Mitchell and Officer Roberts have become unsung heroes who fought in the battle against the forces of darkness, ensuring that the horrors of the past will remain locked within the walls of the haunted station. But the legacy of the station will live on, an instructive story that the Crestwood officers whispered, reminding them that some mysteries should be left untouched and that some ghosts should never be awakened.